Yeah, and less technical, I think.
Yeah, I mean, usually we do Instagram Live these days and just go straight from the phone. Our biggest stream experience was when we were trying to do Emerald City Comic Con online.
Oh, right.
Panels and all sorts of stuff. That was when we thought it was.
Nice.
Instead, we had 6 months or whatever, 8 months.
Always.
All right. Let's see. Hopefully the audio picks up a little bit better, but that's fine.
Oh, I thought that was just me with the lag.
Yeah, sometimes phone connections get a little weird, but we'll be okay. Let's see. All right, so usually we'll do like special intros of each other, but since we know that you two are on it's later there, we'll roll right into introducing you and go from there.
I appreciate it.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks again for doing this.
Happy to. Having us.
All right. Why, hello, and welcome to issue 567 of Geek in the City Radio. I'm one of your hosts, Aaron Duran.
I'm one of your other hosts, Bean Rita.
And I'm your other host, Cable Hashitami.
And we are joined right now, live from their abode over on the East Coast, Willow and David of Volante Designs. Did I say that right?
You did.
That's perfect.
So a quick backstory. Cable shared me, I think, a picture of the Discovery jacket well over a year ago. And I thought, oh, that's really cool, but I don't know if I can swing that or whatever. It's, stuff. And then I went to STLV last year and you folks had a booth there and you were literally debuting the Discovery jackets and you had one of my size and they roped me in right there.
Great.
Yeah.
So you and I must have met in person then.
Once.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Booth, but it's possible I was walking around.
Yeah.
So why don't you give a quick little backstory to listeners, like what you both create and what inspired you to get into this?
Sweet. We make kind of niche geeky clothing, but on a higher end version, or we do it in a sort of different way than is typical. Perhaps we try to make American made, highly functional, chic nerdwear that,
that incorporates the aesthetic of various franchises and anything that we think looks cool. In this case, we're talking about Star Trek. And we just try and incorporate that aesthetic into a jacket that you can wear every day. And that still has a little bit of both sides.
Yeah.
It walks the line.
Yeah, first off, they're incredibly well designed. They are super comfortable. They're one of the few kind of quote off the rack jackets I've ever bought that fits me perfectly as it claims to measure, which is really nice. Especially when your shoulders are built like a pack mule. It's very rare to have one like, oh look, I can move my arms. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Nice. Glad I was working for.
Yeah. So I just went completely blank. What it's a little different because you said they're also they're like a type of denim, but they don't feel like a denim I've ever worn before. What I like to wear and what I like to work with are heavier weight materials. I like natural materials, so it's all primarily cotton. The next generation style that Cable's wearing is a denim, and the version that you're wearing is actually it's a Dobby weave, but it's a particular weave that we had custom made for ourselves. It's got a water resistant finish on it, but it is like 98% cotton and a little bit of spandex. But everything that we make is like party feeling. That's one of the main things that we go for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it could take some hits if you're on the away team kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Where do you find the balance between clearly making it look like, it's from Star Trek or some of the other stuff, like it's from Assassin's Creed, without it looking like we're just recreating the costumes? Like, where do you find the balance between kind of looking at cosplay, but also it's still got to be a functional fashion?
Well, that's I think a big conversation that goes between the two of us. I tend to make things that are a little bit more. I like things that are a little bit more costumey.
Over the top. How about edit, and we
try and make something that makes, okay, so if you didn't know what this was, would you think it was cool or would you think it was
Mhm.
and that's a question. We have a whole checklist of questions that we ask when we go through the process. But basically, I mean, we use elements that you would normally find in a jacket every day, like a visible zipper. A lot of the Star Trek uniforms have no visible hardware. They tend to have hidden zippers or the zippers in the back or something like that. So it's not really part of the look of it. But that's not true of our modern clothing. So we just sort of incorporate that into the design of the piece. We try and take those elements and meld them with things that we're familiar with.
Yeah.
Nice. And
The most common question I get about the TNG jacket is it a motorcycle jacket because of the placement of the zipper?
Right.
It is definitely inspired by a motorcycle style.
Yeah. I think that the Discovery feels the same way. In fact, I will often wear it while just riding on my scooter just because, I don't know, it feels good to ride it. It's maybe not as safe as full-on leathers, but
it's not on leather.
No, not at all. But I rarely take my scooter anywhere over 25 miles an hour, so I'll survive. And if something bad happens, I'll just order another jacket.
If something bad happens, at least you'll look good doing it.
That's right. Is there a franchise that either of you have wanted to do? Because I have noticed that it seems like, unlike a lot of tie-in clothing out there, without naming names, it seems like you two make sure you get licenses and make it all above board.
Sure.
Yeah. Talk about that?
Sure. There are a few that we would like to make collaborations with that maybe we don't want to hold a whole license for. We've learned a lot in the last couple of years about what licensing really means, and Star Trek has been an amazing audience that we're really lucky to work with. They're such great fans. Like, the Star Trek fans are into the stuff we're into. They're into quality, they're into ethics, like getting the details right. They care about all that stuff. And then some of the other fandoms, franchises that we work with, the like fit isn't quite as close. And it's been great, but we just may not carry on that license. I can think of a few I would really like to do some mini collaborations with. Like, I would love to work with Destiny for with a small chunk to do like a limited edition Destiny collection. I would love to work with Star Wars because I think it's very fashion already. Like, there's a lot in there that has great style. You got lists. I mean, the list is long, but I'm not sure that we want to carry a ton more big licenses because of the amount of legal and yada yada yada.
Yeah, I mean, we started off without licenses because we started off without any. We just started basically out of a spare bedroom and on funding, so we didn't really have the licenses, but we did have the interest, and so we did a lot of inspired by pieces, and we tried to. So part of that is, like, I would take inspirations from multiple different sources, different franchises, meld those together with streetwear, and that's a lot of fun for us because it means that we can be a little bit more free, and it allows us to have a little bit more open to interpretation. So somebody can come up and be like, that's a Dante jacket, or somebody up and be like, oh, that's Full Metal Alchemist or whatever. It's like they're all red trench coats, but we took out one of them and made something that was sort of everything. Those are fun.
That's the best case scenario. The worst case scenario is that it looks like a little bit of
nobody gets it.
Everything, and it doesn't quite work. But you don't let them have something.
We aim for best.
Right. What were some of your early influences, some of your earliest works? Because I've perused the website quite a bit, and I get a vibe of a lot of cyberpunk style, or even some kind of transhumanism concepts with the way, like, the asymmetrical cuts and the color schemes. Is that a genre that speaks to you, or is it just for aesthetic reasons?
For sure. I think futuristic stuff is cool. Star Trek is, it's futuristic in a different way, and I like those things. I like tech wear. I like cool asymmetrical lines. I like
stuff that's a departure from what is normal. We were pretty clear that there are enough normal things out there. You can get a good hoodie or a good pair of jeans, or like that's covered. Like we don't need to go back and do that again. So
the other thing is like we my inspiration comes from all of these different sources, comic books, video games, sci-fi shows and stuff. And a lot of those things, in order to keep their brand clear, have specific color schemes for characters or specific color schemes for factions. And those color schemes are clear and very strong, high contrast. So they have like, red and black is a high contrast thing. And that's not a color scheme that you would really get in a modern piece of clothing. But people want it because they know, they identify with that because they watched it on this other, this show, and they love this color scheme, this faction. They want to identify with that. It doesn't matter if it's got a logo or anything like that. They just want to do it. And so I think cyberpunk and futuristic stuff allows for you to mix those colors or combine those colors next to each other and do that kind of fun stuff. I'm rambling now. I'm getting
no, it's good. Because it popped in my head. Because like sometimes one of my co-host Denise, sometimes she will dress, and it's very much like a Sailor Moon aesthetic. Whether she plans it or not, it's like that's the look. Or
right. Some
days I'll go out and just red and black, and my friends will be like, "Oh, it's a Sith day, huh?" I'm like, "Yeah, I guess so." So you two have something pretty cool coming up on Thursday this week. Can you drop a little hints about what's coming on, or do you want to save it for the big reveal day?
Go ahead. Go for it.
All right. So we recently launched a selection of Voyager. We call them Voyager inspired jackets. Their form was also on DS9, but we're sticking with Voyager on. And
when he does this air quotes, it's not because the jacket isn't an officially licensed Star Trek jacket, but because he has qualms
because it's a qualified statement
of the jacket. Not
I understand that uniform spans 2 shows. Yeah.
We just had a conversation about this like a week ago.
Right. Yeah. It's okay. We get where you're coming from. We get the pain. It's fine.
I'm a bit of a pedant when it comes to that.
Yes. Important to everybody who cares about those exact technical details.
Yeah.
We do, and the Star Trek fans do. And we've named it the
2369.
There we go.
That's when the uniform first appeared in, that's the year it first appeared. But anyway, the point is that we launched the 3 colors that are present in Voyager, the sciences, the command, and operations. And one of our biggest requests was, are we going to do the other uniform of that era, which is the one with the gray quilted shoulder in the latter half of DS9 and the TNG movies. And because we had the opportunity to, we worked with our factory on it, we have decided to add that to production.
We're doing a limited run of 25, I think 30 in men's and 12 in women's for those break. So super limited little re-up.
Yeah.
And those will be available on Thursday. I would not wait too long.
Well, crap. I gotta check my bank account because I really want a Command DS9.
See, now is a good time to not already own a jacket like
you
me.
need your sciences jacket.
So one of the reasons I don't already own a Volante Designs Star Trek jacket is because I'm really indecisive, and for years I haven't really been able to decide, which is my color of choice. But I've been putting a lot of thought into it lately in advance of the Thursday release. And I've decided that I belong in red.
Oh, you're going for Command? Wow.
Yeah.
I think that's a very bold move.
I mean, who do you know who's bossier than me?
I blame all those months of you playing the RPG with me now, where I just told you, like, hey, you have to be the captain because no one else wants to be.
That's true. Like, actually playing the role of a Starfleet captain really puts you in the mindset.
Burden and the joy of
Of command.
command, right?
Yep.
That is exactly correct.
So are you having like a special launch video, or what's going on with that?
Yeah, thank you for asking. I think the launch will go live, I think, right after lunch, probably right around 1:30, 2 o'clock. And we will go live on Instagram at 4 with some lovely guests who may or may not be pictured here.
What?
Hmm.
I want to commit you to something before the moment arrives, but we will be joined.
And we'll be talking about it.
Then we'll be chatting about the details of this jacket and on the design.
Awesome.
And just
Sweet.
to put that out there for everyone listening and wanting to be there for that, we are talking Eastern time.
Thank you. Yes, 4 o'clock Eastern time on the Volante Design Instagram live page, which I think will also appear on the Geek in the City. It shows up in both places.
Yeah, it'll show up. But yeah, we're gonna also
Yes, it
join
will.
in on the Geek in the City Radio Instagram also. So yep, we'll definitely be there nerding out.
Cool.
Right on.
Well, I know it's getting kind of late for you both, so we should probably get ready to sign off here. But Willow and David, it was so great to have you on. I know it was limited. Maybe someday we can do a longer chat, but this was really great.
Love that.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure to chat with you.
Yeah, and thank you for creating some Trek swag that I have no problem wearing to a convention or the grocery store.
Very happy that it worked for you.
It's nice to have represented at least in 2/3 of the screen here.
Hey,
And soon enough, we'll have the whole thing.
Yep.
Fantastic. Well, to let you two go, Dave and Willow, thank you again so much, and we
Thank
will
you.
see you on Thursday.
Thanks for having us.
see you Thursday.
All right. Yeah, take care.
Bye.
Have a good
Bye. The awkward Zoom sign off.
Oh,
Mhm.
I know.
Oh, they were super sweet and nice.
Yep. I was
I
also
mean,
looking
all of our
at,
guests are, but
at one of David's designer creations where he's talking about where he draws other inspiration from. It's called the Shogun.
Is that in the Ninja collection?
It is in the Ninja collection. It's like the
first.
top. It's the designer series top tier in the Ninja collection. Like, and what I like is you can strip it down to the jacket itself, or you can layer up so that you have every bit on there.
Oh
man,
wow,
that's
yeah.
That's like full on Lord Raiden.
It
Yes,
kind of
yes,
reminds
it
me
is.
of my old body armor, where you could add like shoulder pads and
Mhm.
like a groin protecting thing that kind of looked like a front skirt piece.
Oh, right. I was like, body armor. Oh, right. Army.
Yes.
Mhm.
I was like, when did you have full cosplay body armor? But right.
Yeah, I was cosplaying as a protector of American freedom. I think I broke cable.
No, you weren't, but other people are.
Well, I mean that's like a whole conversation that I don't even know we should ever have on air. But I have a lot of feelings about that time of my life.
I certainly hope that we continue to have a world where we can yammer on about geeky things for an hour and a half once a week and not have to dive into that particular topic.
No, we don't. We never have to. It's probably better that way.
Yep.
Dang it! I was gonna say something specific to David and Willow, and now I forgot. Well,
I mean-
moving on, I guess.
Yeah. For the listeners, volantedesign.us is their website. Volante Design is their handle on Instagram. Please follow them. Give them shout outs. If you have Volante wear, take photos of yourself and send it to them in it, because they post fan photos on their Instagram. So
Oh, really? I need to do that then.
yes, we both do.
Well, if Bean gets a jacket, we can do a literal crew photo.
I do
I
really.
Sorry.
What's
go
that?
ahead.
Oh, and I do really want a jacket. I was tempted to get the just the next gen era style in red, but you
Mhm.
know, like knowing what we know is happening later this week, I gotta wait for those new designs to come out, right?
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
want to hear that it was limited piece, and where it's like,
I
oh, damn
know.
it.
I know.
Well, you never know. They might not end up like being particularly to my taste. I'm super picky about stuff sometimes. But if I don't get a Starfleet jacket, I am obsessed with their saga-inspired cape.
Oh, the capelet? Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
You're right, it is a capelet, not a cape. And there's nothing I like more than a capelet. I only own like 3. And none of them look like this, so...
I would, if ever I needed an impetus to clear out my closet of jackets, in order, like trying to fit more Volante design jackets would be a reason to do so.
Yeah, I know by Thursday I'll be up to 3.
Damn.
Also, the Mega Man line is super cool and cute.
I don't think I've looked at the Mega Man line from them.
Mm-hmm. It's either you're dressing as Mega Man or who's the red one who shows up eventually.
Which collection is that in?
Don't know.
You go to
Oh, in the
collections.
actual Mega Man collection.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd seen this one. These are cute.
Right? Ooh,
Yeah.
level up.
I don't know why.
Oh.
I know I put my shit in Do Not Disturb. I'm sorry.
That's fine. I don't care. That's fine.
That is still a Chew.
Oh yeah, it is.
Where?
She's in the banner.
Oh, in the banner.
Also, if I ever get back into piracy, I'm basically just going to buy the Ring Wraith jacket, and that's going to be like 80% of my costume.
Mm.
Just put a cutlass on that, and I'm done.
It's pretty good.
I think that I also appreciate not just their Star Trek gear, but the other gear that they have designed and put out. Like we were talking earlier about it at home, that one of the reasons why I was excited to talk to David and Willow today is that not only are they they emailed us. Like they make a product that I like. They are a forward-thinking company that like they take care of their customer base. And like this came about because I had to send my jacket back in for repairs. And they're like, hey, you do a podcast. Can we talk to you some more? It's like, yes, indeed.
Right.
And yeah, those are the companies that I like to support.
Yeah,
I'd like
me
to
too. And it's
They also jumped in right away at the beginning of the pandemic to go into mass production with funds. They were trying to funnel in funds for donations and mass donations for people in medical environments. You know, back when there was like a shortage and doctors and nurses were highly at risk.
Still are.
Right.
But yeah.
And as far as I know, they are still producing masks for donation, but they also sell them too now. So
yeah, the masks are really great. Yeah, they definitely seem like, and I realize like they've signed off, and they're probably like, boy, they just keep talking about us, which I'm sure as a business, that's kind of a good thing. But I like Cable, like I will probably be removing quite a few of my jackets to just, where I'll keep hoodies and I'll keep maybe one super heavy winter coat. But yeah, I mean, they're, whether you're a Trekkie or not, or whatever your fandom is, they're just fucking cool. And super comfortable. Again, like they fit so well.
I bought mine off the rack. I had the exact same experience that you described that you had in Vegas when I went to Rose City. And I tried it on and I went, son of a bitch, I have to buy this.
I do believe I did walk by and say, because you were doing, either you came to my table or I found you and I was like, Cable, by the way, Volante's here and they have next gen stuff. And you were like, son of a.
Yep. I went, well, I'll go try it out. I'll try things on and see what I need to save up for. And it was like, shit, I'm leaving with this coat today. I'm 100% doing this.
Do they come to those themselves? Because like when I see pictures of David, or like when I saw him today, he looked really familiar, and I think there's a chance he helped me try on a jacket at Rose City Comic-Con.
It's entirely possible.
It's entirely possible.
I know he mentioned he might probably fit one of you guys, but that was at Star Trek.
Yeah, that would have been me. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think actually by the time I went to pull the trigger on mine, my size had sold out. But they literally like on the pad on their iPad, they're like, "Well, just order it here. You'll get it like in 2 weeks." This was like, I guess that was like literally the first runs that they were debuting at STLV.
Mhm.
And I just, I wavered back and forth too long, but yeah, like 3 weeks later, like it showed up at my door. So
Yeah, even I could basically I could have walked away with one the same day. It was an excellent fit. The only thing it would have needed would be hemming the cuff. They make them
right.
sort of open ended on purpose so that you can customize that.
Right.
Mhm.
Ooh, well, yeah, that was super cool. It's great to talk to them, and we'll talk to them again on Thursday.
Yeah, I'm excited to kind of be there and talk about the rollout with them and see the
Cable-
designs.
Yeah, and Cable, hopefully you can pop in. I know you got to work during that time.
Yeah, I will. I'll see what the day looks like. If I have a moment that I can do that, then I'll step off the floor.
Yeah, and
Say hello.
but check their website. If there's one you really want, like I can do it, and you can just Venmo me back.
Yeah. I'll keep you posted.
Better check my size.
Right. So yeah, what else we got on the show today? I mean, that was the good stuff there.
Yeah, I know we bandied a couple things around, but did we really decide anything?
I think we were kind of talking
Yes.
about.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, I think the main one, Cable, correct me if I'm wrong, was the Craft trailer, but then rolling into how that's becoming the new, video on demand versus theatrical release.
That
concept.
was one of the two things. The other thing was someone just finally finished the Clone Wars.
That is right. I almost finished last night, but it was like 1:45 and I still had an episode and a half to go. So I was like, you know what? I really, really need to go to bed because I've been not getting enough sleep. So I finished them earlier today. Whoo!
So you said like even the new stuff, right? Like the stuff
Yes,
they just
yes.
did.
When
Like,
I say finished, I mean like
You
I
were
watched the
watching
last
season
2
7.
episodes of season 7 this morning.
that fucking
Fuck.
scene where Ahsoka and Anakin look at each other for the last time.
Ugh. Oh my! I mean, there's a lot. I have a lot of thoughts about the series as a whole. I never took any notes while I was watching it, and it definitely took me a while. So some of the stuff that's from earlier on is going to be largely on memory, not very detailed. But the one thing I do have to say is the art never really grew on me. It's not a style that I personally am crazy for.
Really?
It's not as a whole, but there are just certain details where I think the art style is not well suited to certain details, if that makes sense.
Right.
That's fair.
Like hair, especially. Sometimes some hairstyles look really, really cool in that art style, and then other hairstyles look really weird and I don't know.
Helmet
Just
like.
Yes, yeah, helmet-like. It just looks like a plastic action figure with
Mhm.
plastic hair instead of whatever synthetic fiber hair.
She's holding so still. Oh, did she freeze?
She froze in mid-thought.
Yes, she did. See if she.
It's actually
unsticks her.
it's a good pose for her though. It's all
It
like,
is.
yeah, like she's
It's very
gazing into
thoughtful.
the distance. What? Oh Bean, what happened
She's
to our
about to
Bean?
freeze. Yep, she just froze on the feed.
Quick, everybody, say something about her while she's not. Don't do that because she will hear back eventually.
Yes, she will. So, do we want to do the? Let's talk about pay-per-view, and then we'll
Well, I mean,
spend a
I
lot of
figure
time on.
I figure she's gonna come back here.
Okay, we'll see what happens.
Oh no! We've killed her, people. We've digitally destroyed Denise. And oh no, she's back. She's fine. We didn't. kill her.
Hi. Sorry, I've been having some connectivity issues lately. I don't know where I left off.
I think it was helmet hair, and then whatever.
And then you looked up wistfully to think, and then that's exactly when it froze.
And
So-
then for a second there, I thought you guys were just holding really still and listening very attentively.
No.
Yeah, so
no,
keep moving
yes.
so I know if I lose you guys again. So initially, the stories don't really feel like they have a lot of meat. They have arcs of like 2 to 3 episodes, but they just sort of feel like these little one-off stories that don't have any major connection to the universe as a whole. Again, the Skywalker saga. And of course, I was wrong. There's a lot of stuff from like early seasons that starts to crop back up again in seasons 4 through 6, and then definitely stuff like really is brought back around for season 7. I'm sure that like my favorite arcs, or the ones that I found most memorable and interesting, are probably obvious choices, but like anything having to do with Asajj Ventress was always really, really fun, especially when they start diving into her backstory, and I totally could have done with more of that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obvious, but I just would have loved to have spent more time fleshing that out rather than just kind of like quick snippets, just enough information to kind of tell you like, okay, first this happened to her and then this, and eventually she ends up here.
She's super tragic in that no one ever really follows through with her. Like everyone in her life betrays her.
Well, not exactly, but because at one point she is being trained by a Jedi Master, and that could have, and he dies, so that kind of ends then and there. She could have had a very, very different life if that guy hadn't died. But as we know, it probably would have still ended pretty tragically for her.
I think that my read on Asajj parallels with Ahsoka. I consider them to be two sides of the same coin, that their lives, the way everything, especially the way everything ends for Ahsoka, they were having the exact same problems on both sides of war, and both sides of the light side and the dark side. And I think Asajj figured that out earlier than Ahsoka did.
Right. Well, because Asajj has definitely had a more cutthroat life versus Ahsoka. Her upbringing really focused a lot around like hopefulness and kind of believing the best or expecting the best out of people. It took her a much longer time to become disillusioned. That's
because she was raised by the Jedi.
Right.
And Ahsoka was never raised by any one person in particular.
Right.
And of those that did, most of them were not necessarily positive, hopeful influences in her life.
No, they were always all using her.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of the reasons why both Ahsoka and Asajj are like my top 2 favorite Star Wars characters of all time.
Yeah. And I think when I said betrayed, I think that's what I more meant is that Ahsoka has character people that do care for her. Asajj does not. She's just a tool to get what they want next.
Right. Like you could maybe argue that Mother Talzin and the other Night Sisters cared for her, but even then she was still a vessel for their, for them furthering their means. All of the stuff with Duchess Satine and the Mandalorians was always really interesting, and I can totally see why there have been a lot of books and other media that spend more time on their culture and their history.
Right.
And why those of us watching The Mandalorian have been freaking the fuck out.
Right.
Yes. A lot of other stuff also makes a lot more sense now. I think I might have to rewatch The Mandalorian soon, but I really want to jump into Rebels now.
Rebels is one thing I'll say on Rebels, in my opinion. Rebels is also fantastic. The first half of season 1. And not to say that the whole thing isn't enjoyable by kids. The first half of season 1 feels like it really is made for kids. But I think it's almost deliberate. Because it's so lighthearted. Like, oh, we're wacky rebels. And we're just poking at the Empire because they're not, they're just kind of an annoyance to us out here. And then, doesn't give anything away, but halfway through season 2, Tarkin arrives, and that show takes a fucking turn where you're like, oh, you know what? Being part of an early resistance against an evil empire isn't all fucking fun and games. Oh crap. And
it's 100% the arrival of Tarkin.
I mean, I would almost argue that the early seasons, maybe just season 1 of Clone Wars, is sort of similar in that way. It felt very much like a children's show that kind of ages gradually. Like things get more serious. You start having more death and more, like the villainy aspects get a little bit more sinister with every passing season until you get to, oh, I just straight up just murdered this Jedi.
I feel like the sea change on Clone Wars is somewhere in season 3. And I want to say it's also linked to when they have a 2-part episode that explains on a level that children can understand what war profiteering is and why it is bad.
Mm-hmm.
That was a weird episode, 2-part episode to watch. And I went, this just stopped being a kid's show.
Well, it's a kid's show, but it's the
It's not just for entertaining children anymore. It is a teaching tool now.
It became a show that could be like all great shows that are, quote, geared for kids, could be enjoyed on multiple levels. When you're 8 years old, you're watching Jedi and clones and robots and pew, pew, pew. Your parents are seeing something much different. And then when you're older and you revisit it, you're like, oh, that's where I picked this stuff up. Like, this is where it is, you know?
That's why I want to fight the powers that be. That's why I want systemic change. Oh,
Right.
I learned it from Star Wars.
And there's some pretty touchy subjects in there too, because like all the stuff with the Mandalorian system, wanting to be strictly pacifists and, being neutral in the war. Like normally that would be considered a good thing, pacifism, but it comes with a whole lot of other problems that you sort of open yourself up to, and people don't necessarily like to talk about those. So some pretty mature content is what I would say.
I think of the episode with the one Jedi general that literally is like, you're just clones. You don't count. Man, you're not actually alive. And that hit me like, oh, that's right. We've been looking at it as clones, and they're soldiers. That's what they do. Mm-hmm. But as the war rages on, you're like, oh no, the Republic created a race of people to do the fighting they couldn't do. Oh, the Republic made slaves.
Right.
And it's just program them to serve.
It's not that they couldn't do it. It's that they didn't want to do it. They didn't want to draft, actual citizens, because then that would make them. No one's gonna re-vote for those people. You've become an unsavory politician because you're sending your kids off to war.
It reminds me, to go back to Star Trek really quick, it reminds me of the episode of TOS, The Taste of Armageddon. Mm-hmm. These two planets have been at war for millennia, but they use a computer. And if your city's hit, you walk into a disintegration chamber. And Kirk destroys the computer at the end. They're like, what have you done? You're going to put us back to when there was disease and famine and radiation. He's like, yeah, war is ugly. You shouldn't want it. So now you can either talk or go back to how war is supposed to be fought. Mm-hmm. Not your clean way.
And that's a huge part of what the prequels of the saga are about, right? It's about war by proxy and how you're not necessarily saving lives by doing that. Mm-hmm. We could spend a lot of time on all of that, but it's pretty.
There's a lot.
There's a lot with it. Yeah.
I don't want to get so niche with it though. I do want to talk more about season 7 though, because I know that for people who got around to watching the whole series in its completion at the beginning, I forgot to check how many years went by between end of season 6 and then season 7 releasing.
I want to say 4.
Like in Star Wars times, or like our time?
Yeah.
No, in actual like media.
Yeah.
And I know that now that like season 7 or season 6 ends pretty open-endedly. Like it just ends like any other season without any
It was
anything really being resolved. You're in a high point of the Clone Wars, and a lot of bad things have happened. Not a lot of great stuff by this point, and then it's just over. So I know that must have been really hard for people who were watching the show in real time to kind of like sit there with all these questions.
mostly what season 6 was designed to do, and it was also a truncated season. Like all the other seasons were like 20 episodes or something like that, and season 6 was 5 to 8 episodes, I believe.
Was it that quick?
Yeah, it was short, and it was Netflix was the one that stepped in and kind of this was
because they called it what, the lost episodes.
Yeah. The goal that season 6 ended up fulfilling was that they wanted to provide more philosophical and metaphysical fill in those gaps about what the Jedi believe during the Clone Wars and how they are represented in Star Wars. Like this whole concept of the Force ghost, where you become one with the Force and then you can revisit people throughout their lives, was not a concept that was introduced with Empire Strikes Back,
but never really explained.
Right, because none of the other Jedi had experienced that before. They were like, we die. So the whole concept that Yoda reconnected with Qui-Gon Jinn through the Force was the first time he's like, that's when Yoda went, I'm 900 years old and apparently I don't understand the Force at all.
Which, you could write a whole thesis on in and of itself, like just that little detail there.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I really, especially with the advent of the 7th season, is it also, as a series, provides a lot of backstory that is missing if you are only watching the movies.
Yep. It completes that connective tissue between Attack of the Clones, Clone Wars, the Genndy Tartakovsky show, and the Clone Wars animated series, and then Revenge of the Sith.
Right.
It puts them all back together.
Yeah. Well, it really fleshes out like the course of the relationship between Padme and Anakin. It fleshes out the gradual chipping away of Anakin's belief system. Because I think, when I was younger at the time, I haven't really watched the movies in many, many years, but you watch Attack of the Clones, and then you watch what's the third one?
Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, and it almost seems like a really quick, illogical heel turn for Anakin. I know that there's some scenes that involve him and the senator, and he's planting a lot of seeds, but it still seems pretty quick. And so to get that extra time with him, having all of these different experiences after different battles, time spent with the senator, and the stuff that goes down between him and Padme over the years, it really, really kind of adds a lot more relatability to the way his feelings about everything changed and how easily he was able to make that turn when the time came.
My niece just started watching the movies, and my sister and brother-in-law actually started her with The Phantom Menace.
I was going to ask, what order are they doing?
They're doing chronological, so they're doing those 3, or they just finished those 3. The next ones they're going to do are Solo, and then Rogue One, and then follow into 4, 5, and 6.
How old is she?
She just turned 6. No, 7.
I mean,
7.
A 7-year-old's gonna love The Phantom Menace.
As a rule. Yeah, the thing that my sister told me was that she was unprepared for how much empathy and how deeply she felt for the plight of Anakin, because her introduction to Anakin as a child herself is another kid. She's like, oh, he's just a little kid like me. And so she immediately bonded with that depiction of Anakin. And then to see him turn into Vader, she's like, this poor man. It's like everything horrible happened to it. It's like, good God, Dave Filoni is right. Star Wars is for children.
Yeah, it's the, oh, wait, they're cool. He gets to be a Jedi. What do you mean you're taking him away from his mom?
Yeah.
And then episode 2, they're like, okay, he's a Jedi. He's going to go free mom. The council's like, no, you can't.
Why not?
Right. Yeah.
Because those are the rules
Right.
that we just made up.
Do you have a flag?
Yep. I mean, that's the perfect example of law and order is not justice and equality. Those are two separate things.
Right.
Sometimes they overlap, but a lot of times they don't. And the Jedis protect law and order.
It seems kind of like, I don't know. It seems weird, but I always wonder. So years ago, Dark Horse did basically this thing called Star Wars Infinities, where they did like their versions of What If.
Mm-hmm.
And now I kind of want to see one of what if Qui-Gon had not declined a seat on the council and steered the council through his philosophy. Because they mentioned in Phantom Menace, he's the only person who's ever denied a seat on the council because he doesn't agree with him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so what if he had accepted and tried to change how the council got involved, how the council dealt with, you know,
Baby
the
boy.
galaxy.
I know how that works. It never does. It is so rare to join a leadership group thinking that you will change the things you don't like from the inside.
Well, I think that would have been the interesting thing, is like that would have made an even more disillusioned Qui-Gon. So what happens to that character from then on in?
Okay.
How does that influence how he teaches Obi-Wan? It sends these little ripples and whatever, you know.
I mean, it already sends a big ripple by you kill that one character who would have been the only person that could have actually trained Anakin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is why he had to be taken out of the equation.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of a running theme throughout all of Star Wars, is the degradation of a system that maybe used to be really good and helped the people in its community. But every time you lose a good person in that group, the formula gets diluted a little bit more, you know. And, you know, so Anakin was pretty young to have a Padawan of his own, but those were the circumstances. And in that particular example, it was going pretty well until it wasn't. Mm-hmm. But weirdly enough, it wasn't Anakin's fault when she decides to leave the order. Mm-hmm. He's like the one person who's really, really sticking up for her when no one else believes in her innocence.
He doesn't blame her at all.
No. But even then, that is another example about how Anakin lets his personal connections and feelings interfere with the rules.
Which is, again, goes back to, had Qui-Gon lived, Qui-Gon would have fostered that in Anakin rather than Obi-Wan, who said, no, these are the ways you have to deny your emotional connections.
Right.
Qui-Gon
which then leads him to look for the support in that arena that he wants somewhere else.
Yep, exactly.
Mm-hmm. The painful thing being is that Obi-Wan flat out loves Anakin like a brother. And it's not just a line in Sith. It's and Obi-Wan, I think, realizes that the Jedi need to show emotion too late.
Mm-hmm.
Which, speaking of which, really quickly, it's available online, but if you can't find it, I can send it to you. I got to read the original episode 9, the one before Abrams ruined everything. That was when it was titled Duel of the Fates.
Mm-hmm.
holy crap.
I would read that. I would definitely read that.
I mean, when things get filmed, things can change, but from a story, it's so good. It's amazing. And it's touching on
like
a
to
lot of
read
the stuff
that.
we're talking about, like right here. Yeah. I don't want to give anything away. I'll send it to you guys.
I look forward to you watching Rebels now, Bean, because I
Mhm.
think like Rebels took me a minute to get into because it felt very kid friendly and like it was designed for kids, and there's a lot of goofiness, and it did not stay that way. And it started like episodes that I thought were like, oh, I don't want to watch this kid go through this this training. Those ended up becoming some of my favorite episodes because they started dealing with here's where the Jedi were wrong. Oh, we lost Bean again.
She'll be back again.
Okay. But I'll wait.
That means she now knows the glory of Hondo.
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 We
Sorry,
lost
you're
you
back
again.
again.
I know.
We were just-
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. I was gonna like kind of recap where I lost you at. It was kid. You didn't want to watch Rebels because it felt like children stuff.
It did. It like Aaron was saying at the beginning of it feels very like it's just designed to be kiddie Star Wars, not Star Wars for kids. Because again, Star Wars is supposed to be for kids.
Right.
Mhm.
And do you mean that in terms of like the content and storytelling, or or is it like all young characters?
Oh no, it's not all young characters.
No, but the lead character is a kid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Two of the lead characters are kids. Like, I think when we meet him, the character of Ezra is roughly 12, and the character of Sabine is 15.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of the series, they are, I think, 18 and 21.
Right.
Okay.
They don't start like Rebels starts doing the same thing that Clone Wars does, where it fills in all of these gaps for information between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. One of the amazing things that it does is really talk about the Force in a way that we haven't seen talked about in any of the movies, because there are no Jedi at this point, or there's not supposed to be.
Right.
And the storytellers that we have talking about the Force are talking about it from, these are people who have been separated by at least 2 decades from when the Jedi were at their power.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Till now, when they have been turned into myths from Imperial propaganda.
Right.
And they take a lot more. It's like, let's go back and revisit what Qui-Gon was talking about the Force being a living thing and how it connects all things, and it is not just light and dark.
Sorry, I just saw something that will crack you up. It'll
What's
crack
that?
you up, Cable. It won't mean much to Bean right now, but I can still say it. So first off, if you think R2 is a little murder astromech, wait till you meet Chopper.
Oh my God!
Okay.
Chopper's backstory is that he was outdated during the Clone Wars and has never had a wipe. I just looked something up on Google. This will crack you up. It's been confirmed, Cable. Again, Bean does nothing to the story. It's just a hilarious little trivia. So Chopper has 19 confirmed direct kills and estimated assistant kills of just under 50,000. Because he's a little murder droid.
The first time that I tried to watch Rebels, I hated Chopper. Hated him, and I'm like, oh goddamn, this. It's like these shows and they're goddamn droids, and
He's just a cute little thing that just goes. Burr, 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 burr.
And by the end of Rebels, he was again one of my favorite characters. Like, I have so much empathy for Chopper.
Yeah, when you first see him, like, oh, he's another cute, weird little droid. Halfway into Rebels, you realize, like, oh no, you're an old, like, angry, like, veteran droid that really wants to be done with all this shit, but you have no choice because you're a fucking droid.
Yeah. He has other issues too that as you learn about them, it's like, oh, okay then.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great. AP5 is great. I love AP5.
Yeah. You're going to dig Rebels, Bean. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Prepare for it to also break your heart at times. Just get ready.
I know that Saw Gerrera features in this one. I don't know how heavily. I was kind of in my mind. I guess like my headcanon is that after Order 66, which is the end of season 7, I picture a situation where Ahsoka goes back to that planet where she helped train those rebels, including Saw Gerrera, and joins them.
Yeah. Yeah, if we delve into more, because Rebels and Clone Wars, they connect pretty quickly. I think by season 2 you start to see connections.
Okay. Is there some overlap in the timelines of the two shows?
No, not at all. No.
Okay, so everything in Rebels picks up after the end of Clone Wars.
Yeah, Rebels is I mean, Rebels spans a few years anyway, but Rebels is roughly 5 years before A New Hope.
Okay.
Yes.
And to show how it spans, you can actually see connections between Rebels and Rogue One. In fact, the ghost is in the ship in Rebels is in the background in Rogue One. It's in the fight, the battle over Scarif. It's there.
Okay.
It's also in the Rise of Skywalker, but who cares?
Yeah. Yep.
Should we roll in the other topic before we just delve into super spoiler territory? Because I don't want Bean to be spoiled on anything of Rebels.
Yeah, I had 2 or 3
Plus,
things
Cable and I
spoiled.
are privately chatting, like, remember that one scene? So we got to stop.
Yep. I had a couple things spoiled for me for Rebels, so I knew where things were going to go. Knowing that and then watching it were 2 different things. Like knowing that this thing was going to happen did not effectively prepare me for how it happened at all. Not even a little.
So, well told, I'm assuming is what you're hinting at.
Yeah, like it's made me think differently about spoilers. Like I can know a thing about things, but it still doesn't change or take away the journey
experience.
there.
Yeah.
And with Rebels, I knew 2 of the biggest spoilers that you could have from that, and it's like, oh, nope, was still not ready for any of that.
Yeah.
No, I totally, I get that, because that's why a lot of times I'm like, don't worry, go ahead and give me the spoiler. It's not the same. It's being told a thing or like maybe reading about it on accident is not the same as seeing it happen or reading it for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, but yeah. You'll enjoy Rebels.
Yes.
Just
and
don't
then
take as long to watch it because I want to talk with it more.
It is shorter seasons. It's only 13 episode seasons.
Okay.
And there's only 4.
I did notice there were fewer seasons, so yeah, it'll probably take me less time to get through. For Clone Wars is a little bit of a slog.
Yes, because they were just trying to have fun.
Right.
Like I think it took a couple seasons in order for Dave Filoni to really find out his voice and figure out what he wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that. And not to say it wasn't fun, it's just a lot.
Yeah, and George Lucas was still very heavily involved at that point, which, as it turns out, is a benefit in the long term because, as Filoni has said, Dave Filoni is really the spiritual successor to George Lucas as far as the Star Wars franchise goes.
Yeah, he is. Jeez.
There are so many people that are involved that need to be there because they keep the machine running. But man, I am so glad Dave Filoni is involved at all because he actually understands what Lucas was trying to do in a way that no one else does. So,
Right.
It's interesting because from the interviews that I've listened to, or like the stories that I've heard, in some ways I feel like Filoni might be a better guardian of this canon than Lucas. So I've over the years I've really gotten the impression that a lot of like the deeper lore and the like the continuity stuff that puts it brings everything together in Lucas's mind was like really more of an afterthought.
mm-hmm.
And it seems like Filoni is a lot more precious with those deeper details, and the moral message I think is just like a little bit more tightly wrapped up. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah, it does. It makes perfect sense. It is also where I get this whole Star Wars is for kids, because that's what Dave Filoni said. That was the number one lesson that he learned from Lucas. It's like Star Wars is for kids. Star Wars is for children. If you lose that, then you are not making Star Wars.
Right. And then one last thing before we jump into the other topic.
Mm-hmm.
Bean, you're going to fall in love with Sabine and all of her different fashion and hairstyles.
Motherfucker.
Super.
She's the Mandalorian that loves to tag things. All right. So the next thing we're going to roll into, because we got about half an hour roughly.
Yep.
Is today the Blumhouse and I forgot what network.
Columbia.
They
Sony.
they released the trailer to The Craft Legacy, which I found out is not a remake. It's a continuation of that world. I thought it was going to be a remake.
I think everyone still thinks that. It's listed that way on IMDb, but you watch the trailer and there is one element in the trailer that tells you this is not a remake.
Correct.
This is a sequel.
Bean, have you watched the trailer yet?
I missed it. I'm kind of looking at it now, but there's no audio, which is a lot of it, I think.
Yes. We could play it live, but it's primarily music.
And
then a lot of like
right. Actually, I would love to play it live because I'm like I'm not getting any of the dialogue and all that.
All right. Well, you know what? Let's do it. I don't care. Let's
do that. While you're doing that, I'm gonna go use the restroom. I'll be right back.
All right. Let me.
Okay. I do have it pulled up already.
I think I'm the only one that can share with audio. Fine. Actually, you know what? You should do it. This is behind the scenes here. You should do it because I'm the one directly streaming to YouTube, and I don't want to screw that up.
Okay. So,
all the participants.
Okay.
All the participants.
Let's bring this back to the beginning. Are you seeing it?
No. Yes.
Okay. Can I make it?
You need to unmute your YouTube. That's why you're not.
Right. Oh, it's paused right now.
Oh, okay, that's true.
There we go. Full screen.
All right, go.
And playing.
Nope, still not hearing anything.
The audio's on.
Hold on. Go back.
All right. Is that not working?
Yeah, I'm going to stop your sharing really quick.
Okay.
Well, now it's bugging me. Now I'm going to have to figure it out. It's going to drive me nuts because we had audio before.
Right.
All right. Try it again. Hold on. All right. I'm going to try and do it here. Let me see if I can do it.
Okay.
Very well. That's just thrilling for everyone listening to.
We can cut this later, right?
Never.
Yeah.
We do it live.
Did you watch the trailer?
We're working on it.
Technical difficulties.
All right, hold on. All right, now let me try. That's right, Cable.
Oh, there we go.
Yes. Yeah.
Board, light as a feather, stiff as a board.
Okay. All right, let's do this. I know it feels fast, but it's nice, isn't it? To have a family unit.
David
Come on in to
Duchovny.
meet the boys. They're really excited to meet you.
Feeling about school. You can meet some new friends.
I know why the caged bird sings.
Wow, that is super nasty.
All right, enough. Settle down.
Boys are the worst.
Hey, it happens to everyone.
He's made us all cry at one point or another.
You should come over after school.
What is all this?
This is a ceremony to celebrate you.
Why would you celebrate me?
Because you're out fourth.
Just in time for first period.
This is all just a little crazy. Half the battle of having powers is believing you do. That's why covens have always been important.
If we can do that, what else can we do?
We need to put a spell on Timmy.
We don't want to hurt him though, right?
She's right.
The number one rule of the craft. If a person is a danger to herself or others, they will be bound. I was starting to get a little worried. Sorry, I was just hanging out with my friends. We've gone too far.
Was this just like some game to you?
Oh,
I feel different.
Be careful. A lot of weirdos out here.
We are the weirdos, mister.
So yeah, there it is.
Well, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I want to check it out. I mean, I saw some people posting like, oh man, it's got to be garbage because it's going right to video on demand and stuff. And I'm like, have you looked around the world? Like, movies are not making money if they go to the theater.
Yeah, that's a really, I don't even know. Like, how can you just, do you live under a rock?
Right. Yeah.
Well, and that was kind of what we wanted to talk about when we all watched Mulan, which was a big budget movie that was designed to be seen in a theater. And
It was meant to be.
Yep.
It was supposed to be in theaters in like what, early April?
May, I think.
May. Yeah.
Yeah, May.
It had a date and everything.
It was basically, it was Disney's summer movie.
Right.
Before Black Widow. That's kind of how the breakdown was going to go. It was going to be Mulan. Then I think Wonder Woman, and then Disney was going to drop Black Widow. I think that was going to be like the summer schedule.
Black Widow was earlier. It was actually
was
supposed
it?
to be spring.
Oh, it was Black Widow Memorial Day?
Yeah, I think it was.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
So, yeah, I mean, maybe it is going to be bad. Like, who knows? But, you know.
I mean, it's a Blumhouse, and I cannot tell you. I don't think I've seen any Blumhouse film that disappointed.
Yeah, I've had Blumhouse films that kind of missed the mark for me, but even in those, they had things that I appreciated. Like, oh, okay, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like maybe I didn't love it, but it doesn't mean I don't mean that it was a bad film or, you know, poorly done.
Right. Like
Maybe
Fantasy Island didn't stick the landing for me, but I loved the concept of their version of Fantasy Island. I thought it was great.
I like the business model that Blumhouse has been using for like, they are the modern day Hammer House of Horror.
Right.
But in this particular instance, I think that they are the best poised to take advantage of the fact that we cannot have theatrical releases in a safe manner. So how do you get this new content out to people? You do pay-per-view on demand.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Like, I'm sure that this had a theatrical release on the calendar at some point.
Oh yeah.
And
Almost guarantee it.
instead, they're doing exactly what they have always done, which is adapt to survive.
Right.
I'm sure it helps that they already have a relationship with a streaming service, so they have experience and know-how on that in that part.
Yeah, Blumhouse has done this model for a while.
I didn't even realize they actually were involved with a movie that I actually just watched the other day. Took me a while to get to it, but The Invisible Man.
Oh,
so
right.
good, right?
Yep.
Yes, and I also learned that it was part of this sort of like reboot of classic Universal horror characters.
Yes, that Universal completely fucked up.
Right, because first it was The Mummy, the Tom Cruise version, which I don't know how well that did, but I know I had zero interest in ever seeing that.
So fucking bad.
And then there was one other one that either was coming out soon or already came out.
Well, they wanted to say that fucking Dracula Unbound was going to be where they were going to officially launch the Dark Universe. First off,
Dark Universe.
That movie is trash. The Mummy could have been good, but it just became Tom Cruise's ego. Like, it just became Tom Cruise fighting a sexy mummy, and I just don't give a shit about that.
Right. I don't. The fastest way to get me to not want to see a movie is if Tom Cruise is in it. Also, there's supposed to be a Bride of Frankenstein. I think that one was like a future date, and so now it's totally on hold.
Oh man!
But because The Mummy did so poorly, they were actually going to can the whole idea, I guess. But they were already in post-production for Invisible Man. I'm not super sure of the details.
I think what they seem to forget is that an element to the classic Universal horror movies, Dracula, Frankenstein, Wolfman, is that there is a sense of adventure to them, as well as a focus on humanity within the monsters themselves, so that the real terror becomes the absence of humanity in the humans.
Yeah, the only Universal monster that I believe is without any kind of redeeming qualities is the Mummy. He's Karloff's depiction of the Mummy. He's evil. He's selfish. Like, that's, even Dracula has a bit of tragedy to him, especially the Frankenstein and the creature and like all of them. The Invisible Man's driven mad by his experiments. The Mummy is the only one that doesn't have any. He's just flat out evil, and wants control and power, and the woman that he loved, that he like murdered everyone to try to get. And Sofia Boutella played the Mummy in the Tom Cruise one, and she looks great, but she's completely wasted in that entire film. I could go on about that. I actually wrote like a 2-page write-up of how you could relaunch all the Universal monster movies, and it spins off of the Brendan Fraser Mummy movies. Like, that's where you go back to.
I think that was the last time that was done well.
God, those movies are so good.
Yes,
Those are a lot of fun.
Because they understand you have to have heart to it. You have to have characters that you are emotionally invested in, so that when horrible things happen, you care. And
just the charisma of Fraser and Vice on screen, like together and alone, they are so fun to watch in those movies. So much fun to watch. Yeah.
But anyway, back to direct to streaming.
Yep. I think it's a model that I would like to see more studios just embrace. it's not that I want to see movie houses go out of business, but in an ideal world, I would like them to like focus. Like the thing that should be laid bare here is how much money is just used for all the wrong things in this. Like there's the reason it costs $50 for two people to go to the movies these days is they're putting all the money in all the wrong places.
Yeah. And you know, and something else too, like I've seen some things kind of making the circles that like Mulan was a huge flop for Disney, and it actually wasn't. And this will tie into something else. Yahoo was able to kind of figure out the numbers that Disney got from it based on how many subscribers there are to Disney Plus. There's a huge fucking amount. And they figured out that about 20% of them bought the unlimited Mulan screening.
Okay.
And they ran the numbers, and that broke down to a domestic only, a $250 million box office in basically 2 weeks. Mulan cost $200 million to make. So people are like, oh, they lost all the money. And I'm like, no, they didn't. They didn't have to cut that with anybody. That 240 is theirs. They are not sharing it with theaters.
Box office. That's all theirs. So yeah, it's not this beast that it would have been if it had gotten a global theatrical release, but it didn't kind of need to be. They would have loved that, but in the state of the world, it's not going to be. And I think Warner Brothers learned that with Tenet. They're going to take a bath on that movie. You know, all because Christopher Nolan refused to have it be released on demand because of he's Christopher Nolan.
And while I'm disappointed by this, like I appreciate that they also want Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman 84 to have a theatrical release. That means they pushed it out a year.
Yeah, and well, that's something else to think about too, because I've also heard like, oh my God, if they're not, like if Disney's not putting Black Widow, you know, does that mean if they're waiting for theatrical, does that mean they don't have the confidence in it? Same with Warner Brothers and Wonder Woman. And my thoughts are like, no, that's not it at all. You have to think about like the world we're in. Parents have been quarantined with their children for 6 months now. Mulan was the greatest thing that could ever happen to them. They spent $30 and their kids are going to watch Mulan over and over and over again. You're not going to get that same kind of replay with Wonder Woman and Black Widow with your target audience. Nope. Not the way like kids are going to watch Mulan. So I don't think they'd get the same return on investment if Disney Plus debuted Black Widow for $30 or if HBO Max made it an add-on for Wonder Woman. It's just not going to happen because the audience is different. The reason for buying it is, yeah, you want a good time, but
and there's also some smart play on Warner Brothers' part in that before Wonder Woman 84 hits next year, Snyder's Justice League will have hit HBO Max.
Right.
And people will have seen that and then can, like, if they want to retroactively go, this was the Justice League you were supposed to get that begets this version of Wonder Woman. That will beget Flashpoint.
Right. Yeah. So, look, it sucks for all these studios right now. And I'm kind of tired of the whole, like, well, screw them. They're multi-billion-dollar companies. I mean, yeah, they are. They're all still bleeding money. And if you celebrate their demise, you're being a fool because you're crippling, tens of thousands of people's livelihood. If all you think of studios, if you think of just execs and your big name stars, well, you're an idiot. It's the entertainment industry employs accountants and carpenters and electricians and drivers and cooks. Like, movies are basically small cities that pop up for 90 days and then go away. So yeah, anyway, my little
well, like Cable was saying, is like, you know, there is the potential that film houses will look at this as an opportunity to reprioritize where they spend their money.
Mm-hmm. And maybe actually take the opportunity to shake up the system. Like, part of the reason they're hemorrhaging, that any business is hemorrhaging money, is the money is going the wrong direction. Every time I hear a multi-billion-dollar corporation go, we're losing money left and right, it's like, that's because you are still insisting on paying your shareholders more than you are paying
the people
any
who
of your
actually
workers.
create the work.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And with studios, it's like, you cannot, like, I can be mad at studio execs and shareholders in studios for taking money away from the actors and the writers, the directors, the grips, the studio, everyone who works on the ground, including every 18-year-old that is working a churro stand in their theme parks.
Right. And they just laid off 28,000 people today.
Jesus. And that's not where they should be making the layoffs. They should go, I'm sorry, Barney, we're not paying you $6.2 million. We're going to use that to keep all of these people employed.
Right.
And Barney should go, yeah, that's the human thing to do because I have 6 houses. I'm fine.
Right.
But no, that's, that's what I get mad about. But
nobody wanted to live in that world.
Yeah. But that if we lose these studios, that is, then we lose the art that comes out of it, and we lose entertainment that comes out of it, and that is going to deal us a blow that we aren't emotionally prepared for as a society.
Right.
What could also happen though is, much like after any major disaster, let's say giant fire comes through and wipes out all these big established forests. But what's going to be left behind are all the nutrients that you need to start over again. If a couple big movie houses, go defunct, there are still going to be people who want to write stories, act in them, create and build, and all of the different things that go into making a film. I firmly believe that those people will start their own thing. It will create a vacuum to some degree that people are going to want to fill. And in theory, those are going to be people who want to do things differently.
Yeah. Yeah, and hopefully in the film industry, it means we'll see a return to mid-budget films. Because right now there's either just small budget or there's blockbusters. Like there's no room for that. I think places like Blumhouse are doing the mid-budget films.
Yes, they are.
The studios that I know New Line puts them out, but the production companies that put out the entire Conjuring universe movies, they're all mid-range budgets.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it helps that they primarily do horror, and as a rule, horror doesn't lose money.
No, it does not.
It's a forgiving audience that will go and go and go. But
because we're always chasing that thing that's actually going to scare us.
Yeah.
It wasn't this time, but that next thing. That next thing.
It had parts of it.
Please just scare me once.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the trailer for The Craft, I had that moment. If you were watching live, you saw my eyes go wide when I went, oh my God. This means there's going to be a craft haunt at the next Halloween Hollywood Horror Nights.
Ooh.
Because there's always a Blumhouse house.
That's true. Or they tried Invisible Man.
I'm sure they would have done that this year.
Yeah. Well, we should wrap up the show, friends.
Yes.
Next week we kick off Trektober, right?
That is correct. We will be starting with original series Wolf in the Fold.
That's right. Die, kill, make you suffer, die.
No spoilers.
Oh, you'll see. Oh, it's so good. Also, hella misogynistic, but so good.
Yep. A big
Both
thank you to a big thank you to Willow and David of Volante Design.
Yeah. And make sure to keep your eye out on Instagram Live this Thursday, October 1st. We'll be joining them for that their big release.
4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. So Make sure we remember that. I don't want to log in at 4 and be like, where'd everybody go?
1 p.m. Pacific.
Yes, 1 p.m. Pacific. Yeah, I think that's a good way to wrap it up, right?
Oh, I might be at lunch.
Woohoo!
Okay.
Perfect. Well, with that, I'm Aaron Duran.
I'm Beanarita.
And I'm Cable Hashitani.
We will talk to everybody next week. Ted Wheeler, you must resign.
Go, everyone go shout at your representatives.
That's right.
For any number of reasons.
Register to vote. Make sure
Yes.
that you are registered to vote. Double check, triple check. Trust me. Do it.
Yeah. It's the only way Facebook and Instagram will ever leave you alone about it.
That's
also,
true.
democracy's at stake.
Yes, it is.
Also that, yeah.
Also
Good night, everybody. All right, recording has stopped.